What is going on, guys? We are back playing some more Surviving with Create 0.3, and today we are going to be setting up an andesite generator. Now, we've set up a lot of different generators in this series so far, and some of them had very clear uses, like the iron and gold generators we set up early on. Obviously, we use a ton of iron and maybe I guess at least a little bit of gold when we're crafting, so having an infinite supply of those is extremely useful. The only unfortunate thing is we usually use andesite just as much, if not more, than we use iron when it comes to create, and that leads us to having a massive surplus of iron and not nearly enough andesite. Thankfully, though, there is a way to infinitely produce it, and that is going to be done by building off of the lava generator we set up last episode. Now, a lot of people were asking, why would you possibly need this much lava, especially just in Create? Maybe if you're in a mod pack, you could find a way to expend it for energy, and that's great, but a lot of people did not know that there is a recipe in Create for producing andesite, and that is going to be this one right here using lava, gravel, and flint. And I'm sure you all know that you can infinitely produce gravel and flint very, very easily in Create, meaning if you have a source of lava, be it infinite or not, you will be able to produce andesite very easily, and that's great because this is the one resource I am running low on when it comes to prepping for episodes, so I've been making trips out to do mining strictly for andesite, which seems kind of dumb that I'm going mining for what basically is cobblestone's older brother, and that kind of feels bad, right? We're not going out mining for diamonds, and I can't even warrant using something like a tunnel bore for it, just because that is so much work when I don't need anything other than just andesite. So we're going to be taking care of that today by building off of the lava generator from last episode. I will say, as a prerequisite, you do need lava from somewhere. I would not advise you to manually bucket it in. That's going to be extremely painful. If you're in a mod pack and you want to wirelessly transport fluid from the nether and bring it to your setup, that's totally fine. If you watched last episode and you made the same lava generator I have, that's even better. And if you don't have either of those, well, then I would be biased and say go watch my last episode to do that. But really, any source of lava coming in will be totally fine. Once you have that, we are good to go. And thankfully, today's setup is not going to be nearly as large or as complicated as the last couple. We've had a bunch of 40-minute videos in a row, and I am not going to let that happen on this one. We're going to have a quicker one than normal, which probably means like 30 minutes or something, but it'll be shorter than 40 minutes, I'm telling you that much. So now we can go over the requirements for today's episode and pray that it didn't jinx myself there and make it even longer than the other episodes. But here we have everything we need. As you can see, it is way less than we normally have, which is great. I'm not going to have to worry about filling up my inventory completely for once in like 10 episodes at this point. But we're going to need a bucket of water and a bucket of lava because we're generating cobblestone. We've been doing that pretty much every episode for the last like 5 or 6. And then we're going to need 4 mechanical belts, 7 andesite funnels, a chest, a fluid pipe. This will vary depending on how far you need to transport your lava. I actually don't even think I need a fluid pipe. I think I already piped it over to where I need it, but you will need some form of fluid piping to get it over to your basin. So I have that here just to remind you guys of that. We need 2 gearboxes, 3 millstones, a mechanical drill, a basin, a mechanical pump, 10 shafts, a mechanical press, 3 vertical gearboxes, 3 brass tunnels, a large cogwheel, and 6 regular cogwheels. Along with that, I have some dirt here just for setting stuff up, and then some glass for encasing our cobblestone generator setup like I always do. So we can grab all this stuff out and get ready to start setting this up. And it is so pleasing to look at all these empty spaces in my inventory right here. We have not gotten to enjoy that in a while. It's usually trying to figure out how we could possibly make room in our inventory by ditching things like food, which is not something I really want to do. But in this room down here, this is where we set up the lava generator from last episode, so if you saw that, this probably looks relatively familiar. It's running really nicely, and you can see that we have now, I guess, 72 extra buckets of lava in here. And again, we're going to put all these to good use, making way more andesite than we could possibly ever use. But the setup's running really nicely. I love it. And for those of you that saw last episode, you might be able to tell that I did make some adjustments to try and make the room look a little bit better, give it some depth and a little bit more color. So let me know if you like that. We got these chests for all the netherrack we use. I've just moved a little bit over here, not all that I have, but I like how it turned out. And we are going to be building off of this room over here with our new setup. I figured we'd do it just in the same room because we're basically using all this lava strictly for this setup, so why not? But this is where we are going to be bringing it in with this fluid pipe right here. So we just pump it right over from the tank and we should be good. A lot of people are asking how you get it out of here. You're just going to pump it out using the same method that we used to get it out of the basin over there, using a mechanical pump. And so we are going to start everything out with this basin. Oh, not right there. We want to put it right where that torch was, so right here. Now, this is the central portion for this entire setup. Obviously, if we look at the recipe again, all of this happens in the basin. It's going to be using the mechanical press though, so thankfully, no heating required, no mechanical mixer involved or anything. That makes our lives a lot easier because we do not need to ramp up the speed for this. So we're going to put that down and then throw the mechanical press right on top of it. We're going to want to make sure that the rotation is coming out the same side that we have our fluid pipe coming in at. And then we're going to put down the mechanical pump right on the side that we're pulling it out over here with the pump or with the pipes at. And then we're going to want to make sure that we flip this so it's pointing into the basin. Again, I always have to say this, when we eventually hook this up to rotational power, this may flip in direction. Depending on the way the cogwheel is spinning, we just need to check when we're done setting this up that it is going in the right direction. Otherwise, it's not going to pump lava in here. And this, again, it can flip, but you can always flip it back. So I messed that up in one episode and didn't realize why. Just something we need to double check. But this is going to bring the lava into our basin, and this is going to then press it. We need to get the rest of the items in there, though. And if we look at the recipe, we need gravel and flint. And you may know that when you have gravel, you can use this to make flint very easily in a millstone. Now, there's a lot of different ways to get the flint. You could have a chance from using crushing wheels. You could have a chance from washing it. But if we use the millstone, we're not going to get any byproduct, and we have a 100% chance of getting the flint. So this is the way that we want to go about doing it. On top of that, we also are going to be using that gravel for the recipe too. So we need to have 3 pieces of gravel coming in, 1 that gets put straight into the basin, and then 2 that get turned into flint and then go into the basin also. So we're going to try and keep it at the exact 2-to-1 ratio. So this will always have just enough to make a piece of andesite in here and not overflow. So what we're going to do is come down here and we're going to want to mine out all these 3 blocks right here, and we can actually bring out we can do 3 over here, and then we're going to want to come under here, and then we're going to want to do 2 more on this side, and this is where we're going to set up our first belt. So we're going to grab out our shaft and our mechanical belt, put them down right here if this one wants to orient properly for me, and we can connect them. Now, we want to have this sort of funnel portion of the basin coming out right on this side here, as this is going to be where the finalized portion of the setup goes. And we can just quickly throw down our chest right here and throw down an andesite funnel because very simple to do. We don't need to worry about filtering this because the only thing coming in here is going to be andesite. So we just want to chuck it right in this chest. I hate that you can do that if you can't open a chest with an andesite funnel, it just puts it down, but they'll all be going into this chest. And if you want to expand on this later, that's fine. I'm not too concerned with filling it up just yet. So now that we are finished with this final portion of the setup over here, we can begin working backwards to where we actually get the ingredients that need to go in this basin to make the andesite. And I know it might seem a little bit weird. We're starting at the end and we'll be ending at the beginning of the setup over here, but I promise it's going to be the easiest way to make sure everything is oriented properly. And so hopefully you guys can still follow along and understand the setup, but I promise in the end it will all make sense. So right off this basin here, we want to put down an andesite funnel. Thankfully, we have no waste in this setup, no byproducts. We're going fully green. And so we don't need to worry about filtering anything out like we normally do. So we can enjoy using the andesite funnels while it lasts. But it's going to go and just pick up everything that's going onto this belt right here and dump it in the basin. And so then off of this belt, we are going to be digging down to make 3 different items that are going to be coming in on 3 different item streams, 2 of which are going to be flint, 1 of which is going to be gravel. So we're going to have the 3 long ones on the back right here, and then 1 5 long right at the beginning. And I could have done a better job of orienting these shafts appropriately, but there we go. So then we can set up the 2 3 long belts right there and the 1 5 long belt right here. These 2 in the back are going to be used for generating flint from gravel, and then the one on the front right here is going to be used strictly to let the gravel go right through. So in the end, we have a perfect ratio of 2 flint and 1 gravel, which is exactly what we need to generate 1 piece of andesite along with the 100 millibuckets of lava, which is great because it means that we can do a round robin right here and make sure that all the gravel coming in will go 1 1 1. We'll get 1 piece, and then we can do it again so that there will be no backup, no excess or anything going in here. We will always have the perfect amount. So the way we're going to go about doing this once we have the belts down is by throwing down millstones right here on the end of these two belts that we'll be generating the flint on. And then we're going to put an andesite funnel going into each of these. And then we're going to put an andesite funnel coming out of them too. And then we want to make sure that we have the arrow pointing out of the millstone. You can see it right here on the side and right here on the top. Depending on how you put them down, you may have the arrow orienting up from the belt. And if that happens, then it's not going to pull out any of the gravel, or any of the flint, I should say. It's going to try and put items in there, and you're not going to have a fun time because none of the setup's going to work. So if it's going in the wrong direction, you can just wrench it to make sure it's pointing appropriately down here to dump the items out. Now, once we have the millstone set up, we're pretty much good to set up our brass tunnels on these three belts right here, exactly at the start point for the final belts. And what this will do is allow us to have items coming in and then evenly split them in a round robin setup, one to each of these belts, and then it will cycle back. Now we need to make sure that these are set to the appropriate setting, and this setting does go across all connected ones, so we just need to adjust it on one of these, but it says when multiple outputs are available to split it. But because we're only going to have one piece coming in at a time, we're going to want to scroll through this and go to the one that's going to be round robin. Now you can see there's a couple different ones. There's forced round robin, which you can do this if you want. It doesn't really matter. It's just going to mean that if there's nowhere for it to go, it will halt putting items through. That's not going to be a problem for us, but you have the option. You just want to make sure that it's either round robin or forced round robin. You do not want any of the other ones, as you will not accurately get one into each of these every time one comes in. Now that we have the gravel split appropriately, we need to actually get the gravel, right? Because that's the most important part of this setup. Without the gravel, nothing's going to actually work. So we can put our millstone, our final one, right on top of this belt right here and slap down another andesite funnel to pull items out of here. And that will dump it onto this belt, which will then split it into here and get us our gravel and our flint going in here. So with this millstone, we're going to be doing the typical setup that I do for generating gravel, and that's going to be using our water and our lava and some glass to make a infinite cobblestone generator, which will dump directly into the millstone. And I should probably grab out some dirt for setting this up too. We want the cobblestone to generate right where this dirt is, which means we're going to want the mechanical drill to be right back here, so we can place that down real quick, just facing in there. And I didn't shift place it down, so we can just do that so we don't have to reorient it. So it's going to mine it right here, which means we want the water to be on top of this andesite funnel right here. This andesite funnel counts as a block, so the water is not going to go down onto that belt, but we do need to surround the other sides of it. And then finally, the lava is going to be right above this dirt, so we just want to enclose it right up here. And so we don't waste any glass, we can do that. And there we go. So now we should be good to place down our water, our lava, and we will end up with our cobblestone generator setup. So hopefully we can appropriately place the water right there, lava right there, and we should be good. So this will mine the stone, it'll make cobblestone, the millstone will then make it into gravel. One piece of gravel will come on this mechanical belt right here and get dumped right into the basin. And thankfully, even when it's oriented kind of weird like this, and it might look like this funnel blocks this belt, it does not, which is great. It allows it to be a little bit more compact. And then over here, these two millstones will each produce one thing of flint, no byproduct again, which is super duper nice. And then those will go right into this basin here too. And then out comes our andesite into this chest, and we will have more than we could possibly need. Unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, we need to start setting up the rotational power for this setup, and so we are going to get out a bunch of these cogwheels and start connecting things. The easiest part to do is to use 3 different cogwheels right over here. We'll put one down on top of the mechanical pump, and then one down connecting to the mechanical press. The direction is not going to matter, so it doesn't matter that these are going to reverse the rotation. And then finally, we're going to want to come down right here below the mechanical pump, and we're going to want to put down a shaft, and then we're going to want to put down another cogwheel. So this will transfer power coming from this mechanical belt right here up into the mechanical pump, and then up to this cogwheel and up to the mechanical press. Now that we have that, we should be good to just cover this back up right here, and we can begin transferring rotational power from this mechanical belt over to this one right here. And to do this, we're going to clear these 3 blocks out right here. Again, we want to make sure that all these items do not fall onto our belt system. It's going to clog it up, and I'm totally going to forget, so I always need to remind myself, like right when it happens, that I need to pull the blocks off of it. But to do this, we're going to need to use our 2 regular gearboxes, just like this, and then another shaft right here. Unfortunately, we can't just use one and have it at this corner because it would reverse it, and this would be going that way, which is the exact opposite direction we need. So instead, we're going to use 2 so we can reverse it twice and end up with it coming in the appropriate direction to the left to the chest here. So now we need to worry about getting rotational power to the cobblestone generator portion of the setup, and this is going to be a little bit different than the rest of the setup because if you've seen my videos before, you'll know that I always discuss the ratio of speeds you need for the mechanical drill and the millstone to make sure that the millstone is able to process all the items coming into it without having a backup. If you do have a backup, eventually your cobblestone generator is going to start spitting cobble out. It won't be able to go into the millstone, and you will end up having a ton of entities everywhere, and eventually, if you're really AFKing, causing a ton of lag for either yourself or your entire server. So it's very important that you avoid this, and the easiest way to do it is by doubling the RPM for the millstone as you have for the mechanical drill. In this case, we're going to be actually having the RPM since the entire rest of the system will be at 16 and this mechanical drill will only be running at 8. But as long as this is half of what the millstone is, you won't need to worry about there being a backup and eventually having entities going everywhere. And that's the really important part. So it's going to be a little bit different than the rest of the setup, like I said, but it's not really that complicated. I do want to come down here, and I know that that just ended up on the belt again. So we want to grab this off the belt. But we're going to want to put down a vertical gearbox and then a cogwheel, and this will easily bring power from the belt system right here, which will be powered by the input over here. We'll discuss that in a minute, and it will bring it up to the millstone. Direction for the millstone does not matter, which is great. It also doesn't matter for the mechanical drill, so again, makes our lives a lot easier. Then we're going to take another regular cogwheel, put it down adjacent to this one, and then finally off the corner of this, we're going to put down a large cogwheel. And this is where the RPM halving comes into the steps. So this will cut it from 16 right here to 8 right here, going from a small to a large. And then we're just going to use a vertical gearbox to toss it into that mechanical drill. So now this will be running and appropriately be able to mine the cobblestone, drop it into the millstone where there will be nothing sitting, and this will kick it out right as more is coming in. So that should function perfectly, even if we leave it for an infinite amount of time. And then finally, we need to make sure that we are getting power to these millstones right here from this belt system down below it. So we already have a shaft right here, which is great. We can easily then just pull power up using a vertical gearbox and another cogwheel. And thankfully, because these millstones are technically cogwheels, these will transfer power between the two of them. So as long as we power this one will also be powered. And again, because rotation doesn't matter for the millstones, it makes our lives so much easier. So now everything should appropriately be hooked up and ready to run as long as we just give power to the system. And I'm going to power this the same way I powered the lava generator setup out here. As you can see, we have the water wheels out here, technically magma wheels, I guess you could say, because they are using lava instead of water, but it generates the same stress capacity and the same speed. So I think it's a little bit more appropriate for this setup. Eventually we'll go back to water. I know they're a fire hazard. You don't need to tell me twice. But because we don't have any wood down here, why not? So we've got 2 over here. That's more than we would possibly need for this setup. It's not running at a very high speed just because eventually we're not going to have enough lava in there if we run it at a very high speed. So I'm not too concerned with that. But all we're going to do is mine out this block down here. Again, it's landing on the belt system. So annoying. And we are going to put down a single shaft. And now you can see it is going to start working. We want to quickly do a check and make sure everything is rotating in the proper direction. So all these belts are coming over, and then this belt is running below this to the chest. Finally, we want to make sure that this pump is able to bring lava over here. So we want to make sure that this direction is in fact appropriate. And as you can see, it is in fact pointing in. We're getting the particle effects of lava on this, and lava is now going in here. And you can see it's got an internal storage of 1 bucket, so it won't go anything over that, but it'll refill once we process some of it. We got the gravel in there once, and then over here, we should be able to watch as some of the flint comes out. So it should have gone into the first millstone. We can see the particle effects there. It should kick it out and go right into this funnel right here. Yep. And then this one should then start running. Yep. So we got the particle effects coming in there. and then this will kick it out in a second too. Again, it's really not that fast, but it's not meant to be, just because I'm not too concerned with it. So there we go. Now we have the appropriate stuff in here. You can see it smashes down, uses 100 millibuckets of the lava. It's already refilled. And then we just have the automatic output over here once it's done, using this little chute onto this belt, and we end up with andesite in this chest. So very simple setup, guys, way less complicated than all the other generators. And it's really compact too. So it's definitely a nice one to have. It means that you will have less of a reason to leave your house, which obviously is great. The less work we have to do in modded Minecraft, the better. And I think, again, this looks really cool. I love all the automated setups in Create, so this is just another one of those that I get to enjoy. And I think it's a nice addition to this setup over here because it makes it an even larger contraption and lets us use up these 86 plus buckets of lava that we have, with more on the way. So hopefully you guys will be able to get good use out of this and not have to worry about going out mining, because again, pretty much everything you use in Create is iron and andesite. And a lot of people I know have even asked, because they have bugs in their world with world generation and not having any or nearly enough andesite, so they run into problems with Create, and everyone should be able to enjoy it. So if you're having trouble with andesite too and finding it, then this is a good setup to go with also. But I think that's going to be it for today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. Also, let me know what you think about the improvements to this room. I really like adding some depth with these storage areas over here, but again, not a great builder, so I tried my best to give it at least a little bit of color. But hopefully you guys will bear with me on that one. I know a lot of you said you don't think I'm a bad builder, and I appreciate that. You guys are way too nice to me. But that's going to be it for today's episode. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you get some use out of this, and I will talk to you later.